that some person has used it for currency. We can use blockchain for a lot of things. And when I say lot of things, what are the things that are involved? Say, we have been seeing for the past hundreds of years, man is preserving data on the papers, on the ledgers, now on the systems, recently into the cloud. I strongly believe blockchain is the next thing in the cycle, and it will take place after the cloud. So why is it that important? So I'll give you an example. We all have our projects, our businesses, and how can we see a simple example of this blockchain? Say we have a lot of tables in our projects. Each table, assume you have like 2 more columns of data, and purpose of these 2 columns is one column stores the encrypted data of the previous column, and the second row stores the encrypted data of the next column. So this way, each row contains the data of the previous column and succeeding column. We call this encrypted data as hash. So we are maintaining hash, 2 columns for hash for each data. And what is the purpose of maintaining this hash? Say at any point someone has entered your system and someone has hacked your system and changed the data of some particular row. Now, if you just run a simple program, you can check if the data is valid or not. So this way, your data is secure. Imagine this kind of data staying on multiple systems. So not only you can check the same table to check if it's good data or bad data, you have duplicate records to maintain this. These duplicate records are called ledgers. So this is a small glimpse of what blockchain is. It's not something superficial or anything that we can't implement. It's very, very simple. With small effort, we can start introducing it to our projects. So blockchain provides a decentralized way of providing security to our systems. That's my
Woo! Cool.
All right. Paul, you ready?
No, I can go through
Huh?
Richard, you want to go?
I thought you used something else.
Richard's
Use your
going.
computer. Okay, Richard's gonna go. Do you need a minute? Can I help you with anything? You just got to get set up.
Which one?
This one.
Epitech 1810, capital E. I just told that to all of YouTube, so hopefully they don't know where we are.
We're at Epitech.
We are at Epitech. Does he need a dongle to get set up? You gonna set him up?
I'm gonna put Pearl.
No.
Yes, or looks like black. The Pro version of the
Epitech
dongle.
guest. Alrighty.
All right, Richard. Which files do you want?
So our lightning talk is Richard.
Disconnect.
Who we're just gonna live stream them getting that set up because I think
Yep.
that's kind of fun.
So why not? Well, we went.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is. This is fun. I've wanted to do this for a while because Ann Arbor SemJS does lightning talks for their anniversary meeting every year, and they do like 2-minute ones, like 5-minute ones. They do like super lightning talks, so you can't really get into anything. It's still a good way to get your first speaking jitters out of the way. But I've wanted to do this forever.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
So
Okay.
fun.
First thing I want to do is,
Is he plugged in? Because I am not seeing it.
Not yet.
yeah, you can click an example of that. No, actually, that was the wrong one. Sorry. All right.
You ever just, huh?
Yeah.
It'll be up there in a second.
Sorry.
Yep. Should be fine. Okay.
WordPress.
I'll double check.
Yeah.
Let's get things set up.
Okay. Today, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of developers hate to do, and that's documentation.
Beautiful.
They love to do their software. They're expert at it. And they come up with this wonderful software. But the software is only as good as the user who's using the software. How do you communicate to the user? Maybe dozens, maybe hundreds, for all I know thousands. How to use your software in the best and most efficient way. Oh, gee, we could spend dozens of hours on Microsoft Word and slowly but surely create something. But look at this. Pictures, 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 pictures. A picture's worth 1,000 words. But wait, these pictures don't have that many words next to them. The pictures are doing the communication. That is a neat way of doing it, and you draw arrows, and I'm going to show you how this is done shortly. Now, some of these screenshots were done with a program called Snagit, and it costs a lot of money, but it does a beautiful job. But guess what? If you use Snagit to do all the screen captures that I'm recommending you do, you'd be spending a lot of time. There's a beautiful program called Lightscreen. It is simple, and I use the portable version. You run the program, and print screen captures the whole screen. Alt print screen captures the active window, and control print screen you highlight from corner to corner, and it captures that amount. You can do screen captures at the rate of 1, maybe even 2 a second. You just sit there and you work the program. Then, let's see, how do we minimize here? Oh, yeah. And then we're going to go back to here. And then we are going to go back up to here. And we are going to go into here.
Hopefully it runs on the Mac.
Hopefully.
And let's see. There we are.
That's
And I'm
an
going to
exe.
run lightscreen.exe. Now I have my Lightscreen on a thumb drive, so I can go to any PC that's got the software on it, plug my thumb drive in, and bingo. Now, there's a suite of portable apps, that's what they call them. It's called portableapps.com. And there's another one as well. I'll show you how to get to those shortly. So we're going to double click on this, and bingo. And
I'm about to open yours.
slowly but surely. Now, hold on a minute, I got something I
Xamarin
didn't
Profile.
expect here.
What just happened?
Xamarin Profiler.
Yeah, that thing is. I was just gonna say, do you have parallels? There you go.
Let me help you out, Richard.
Yes.
We need Windows.
My board comes with all the shiny tools.
Ah, here we go.
Drag the file folder into.
We don't need to do that. Just connect the USB port.
Oh yeah.
Need to activate.
I have Boot Camp on mine. I might get rid of it for parallels. Boot Camp's. Yeah, Boot Camp's just annoying. And now the mini lightning talked on how Parallels allows you to run Windows on the Mac.
Where is it?
It'll be drive F.
That's funny.
There we go.
How to developer 101.
Now, when this app opens up, there'll be a little itty bitty window,
Yeah.
and there'll be options. Now, normally, I was screwing around with this, so I'm going to change this back to the normal hotkeys. Going to hit hotkeys, and actually, I better not even mess with that because this is actually a Mac behind the Windows, so the keys will be different. But if you want to capture the whole screen, you hit the print screen key, or in this case I'll do this, and bingo, I've got the whole screen. Now if I want to do an area, I'm going to click right here, but in reality you could just use the control print screen key, and let's click on that, and then that's the area we're capturing, and we'll click on the check mark, and then let's say we want to do an active window. Okay, we're going to click on here, or you could use the Alt print screen key, and now we're let's see, it should be drive F here.
Your Patriot one?
Should be gang conference. Gang talk, yep. Oh, no, actually, we need to go back one. And then we're going to go to documents and pictures. Okay, and you'll notice screenshot 1, screenshot 2, screenshot 3, ... screenshot 50. However many you did. That's the key that allows you to take these screenshots in a phenomenal way. Then, we are going to go back here.
Yeah, just plug it.
Oops.
Click like that. Where is it? Come on. Come on. There we go.
Actually, I want to go back one more.
Oh, just click it. There you go.
And then we're going to go to Gang Lightning Talk again.
Click it.
Oops.
Mac keyboards are
Go
awesome.
to it.
Just hit enter.
There we go. And we're going to do, let's see.
Just open the PDF.
All right, we are going to go to example document.
I don't care parallels for my later.
Okay, now wait a minute. What's going on here? Let's
Just parallel. Alright. This one?
Yeah, that's going to open up in Word.
Hopefully. No, WordPad. Alright.
Oh, we might have to go back to the other.
You need to edit it?
Oh, yeah, here we are. Now, one thing that's going to happen is let's see. Oh, this Microsoft Word's a little different. Oh, it's in WordPad. Oh, that's not going to work. Anyway, what you basically do is you open up, I'll just go here, wait, we're just going to go here to the PDF file.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, let's, can we make this a little larger? Or is that, can everybody see that good? It needs to be a little larger maybe. Here we go. All right, then we're gonna scroll all the way to the top. Oh, we're already here, okay. All right. Number one, I talked about light screen. That's right here. Portable apps, which includes light screen. Go there, you get a whole thumb drive full of software. The small amount of software or hundreds of programs, depending on how big your thumb drive is. Or LibreKey. The only thing I like about LibreKey is that as you go to each program, there's a little box that can come up and tell you what the program does and what it's about. But then we see how the light screen program basically operates. And how to set the options for the control to what hotkeys do what. And I'm going to show you how to get this document off the internet. Then you open up Word. Then you make a 2-column table. I make it about 20 rows long. And then, meanwhile, in the folder you selected, you drag the files over and you put them in the cells. Sometimes they fit very nicely, but sometimes they are just too big. And so column 1 expands out. You click on the image and you reduce it down, and everything works just fine. Grab the lower left corner and push back and up. When you're dragging them over, click on the cell that you want the picture to go into before you drag it over. Otherwise, it'll try and put it in the previous one-up cell. Then, and here is the tricky thing. Drawing the arrows. When you draw the arrows, you're going to go to Microsoft Word and do shapes, and a whole bunch of things will show up, and you pick the arrow. What could be easier? But wait a minute. Straight arrows are not always the best thing. Sometimes you need an arrow that goes around like that so it doesn't confuse things. I'll show you how that's done momentarily. And let's see, we have that down here. Yes. Okay. In this case, you click here and you get a curved line. You pick that. It's not going to be an arrow, it's going to be a line. Then you go to where you want to start from, click, where you want it to curve, click, where you want it to end up, double click. And then you have a nice curved line. It could go, if you want it to curve in more than one place, you could go down, click, continue, click again, and then go to wherever and double click. The next thing you'll want to do is, if necessary, pick the color while the line is still selected, and then you're going to make it into where you click on Shape Outline, you will then select arrows and pick the kind of arrow you want. And even though it was not an arrow line to start off with, it is now, after you do that, an arrow line. You will find that using this method, which is fully explained in this document in infinite detail, that you can do amazing documentation at amazing speed. Getting this document is very simple. Tiny URL /MIGang01. You get that document and you can absolutely do a wonderful job. And right now somebody's telling me that I'm be done in 1 minute. That's basically it. And that's a way of getting wonderful documentation done quickly.
Thanks, Richard. Alright, so just as an aside, when you guys come up, I was already telling Rosie this, but introduce yourselves real quick, because I know we kind of just jumped through 2 lightning talks with like no warning, we just kind of jumped in. Introduce yourself, introduce your talk. Wait, Paul, you did someone else's laptop, right?
Oh,
No, I don't care.
Look at that, too.
I said I don't care what I use.
Just
Just
look at that, too. 'Cause that's
Okay,
still
so like,
running
if he's
on
already
it.
plugged in, you can just use his.
Yeah, can I just use Richard's thing?
Sure. You just leave your laptop on screen and start sliding up. You've been bought a 15-minute reprieve.
Then you might have to go back to the Mac side.
And if it's not obvious when I start cheerleading,
Oh, I'm
take time.
going, I'm blitzkrieging through it faster than the Germans went through it.
Don't blitzkrieg through Poland. Take your time.
Let's break through Poland.
First they should be
Okay, how'd you think I did?
Oh.
Good, bad, or indifferent?
This is inappropriate for the YouTubes.
We connect the dots to the board.
This is inappropriate for the YouTubes. But the children can't see you guys connecting your dongles together.
Okay, all right.
I like my
Use muting chair. Let me make sure this thing actually works.
Do I duplicate it or do I extend it?
Duplicate.
Okay.
Duplicato.
Picasso.
It's no work. It's plug in. See it? Here, let me try and plug in. Let me plug in on this end.
Doesn't seem to. There's no signal.
Nope, I'm trying it again.
Common service book.
Oh, as an aside, if you guys run Windows 10, it now has a
Oh,
built-in
that
Doesn't
snippet
matter.
tool.
That's not a problem.
So,
That's the problem. all right.
which I did not know about for about like 3 years after switching to Windows 10. So I was.
There's 2 now.
There's 2?
Well, the snipping tool that was like the
Something
main
on
one that
here?
came with Windows 10,
Yeah.
that one's going away, and now it's like snip and share or something. That's a new one, like with the newest build that just
Is
came
it
out.
better? Because, like, honestly, I still kind of kept using older tools like that just because the UX on snipping tool was terrible.
Yeah, the new one has like a bunch of other options, but it's not as quick to like easily like mark off something.
Oh.
Press.
Interesting.
That's one reason I like light screen, just snap, snap, snap.
Yeah.
snap, snap.
Some of those older tools just work better.
And it's totally
It
free.
goes in one way.
The version
Huh?
I showed you is not the latest.
Well, does OneNote
version.
have built-in screen snipping?
OneNote has that, so you can highlight the active window or the desktop.
Oh.
The Windows Shift S or something, bang, you got it.
Neat.
On a Mac,
It's command
Shift F4.
it's command control shift 4. I know like the muscle memory for the claw that does it, that lets you do a screen grab. It's this. So do this.
Now I
Do you want to use mine?
don't care what I use. Just give me whatever. Now it's just like froze because it.
We froze the surface.
Yeah, I didn't freeze it.
We froze the surface.
Give me my laptop. No idea. But yeah.
Yes, Mr. Vice President.
Mr. President.
Yes, thank you. We should just do that. We should only refer to each other by titles while we're here. Just be total insufferable pranks.
Yes, Mr. President.
Absolutely, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ex-Volunteer. That's him.
He's a volunteer. He's the one who updated the.
Oh.
He's the one who made the image for the website because other person was moving.
Yeah. Moving one that
What, were
particular.
you moving?
Yeah, I just
What were you
moved.
doing?
What were you moving? Just go on and get home. Just open up the website.
We're going on to private email. Alright. Let's go to
/ Palo.
There we go. I love lightning talks though. We just have a lively discussion on sniffing tools. It's funny, we have such trouble getting people to do lightning talks. We tried to do 2 every month, and we just couldn't. And now it's kind of nice. If you want to give a lightning talk once a year, maybe. If people like this by the time we're done with it. If everybody says never do this again, and we're never doing it again. Why are you on that list? That's because you gave us money and became a member.
Oh, you're on a list.
Yeah, you're on a list. We send it to the government once a year.
We send it to the.
Do I just save it wherever I want to save it?
It's really cool.
Good times.
Come on.
We're also now learning. We should totally just make everybody send their slide decks to one computer next time.
Yeah, I was wondering about that one.
Everybody switching computers.
I mean, we have enough extra. Oh, all right. Introduce yourself. Introduce your talk.
Okay, my name is Paul. I'm a software consultant. I'm going to be doing 20 business networking tips in 10 minutes. I've been doing a lot of business networking in the last year, and a lot of these tips are not from me. They don't come from me. Some of them do, but they are all fairly simple, but they're not always followed. Tip number one. Tip number one is wear your name tag on the right side. If you wear it on the left side and you go to some of these meetups and you shake somebody's hand, they can't read your name. Tip number two, dress accordingly. Do not wear funky t-shirts that have logos on them or hipster t-shirts or any ripped clothing. Don't eat or drink, especially alcohol. Some of these networking things that you go to, some people might not appreciate you drinking. Like here we go out and drink alcohol later, we go to the bar, so it is appropriate. If you can, get an attendee list beforehand, because you can find out who is going and then you can target those people when you go to these events. Meetup allows you to look up who is going to some of these events like today. Unfortunately, not everybody puts their information onto their profile on Meetup, which is kind of hard, but you might be able to target some people. Have clear goals. So if you come to a event like today, you want to go and learn something maybe, or a networking event, you want to have a goal. In general, you want to have goals for all the networking events that you want to achieve something, and you want to know what types of events you should attend. Don't give your business card to everybody. There's people that give their business card to everybody. They just walk around. Only give your card when somebody asks you, pretty much, or you find that mutual connection where you know you want to go and exchange cards. Have a good elevator pitch. 30-second pitch. You need to tell somebody what it is that you do and how you provide a unique value based on what you do. And if you can, insert a success story. If you can't, if let's say your job's going bad, say, hey, we have an issue and here's how we're working towards fixing it. Don't spend too much time with one person. If you go to these networking events, sometimes people will try to chat you up. You want to go and move around and hopefully meet as many people as possible. Follow up immediately. There's about a 24 to 48-hour window. People will then forget who you are. I would go and send them a message and connect to them within the first, day or so. Use different follow-up methods. When you meet somebody and then you, like a potential client or a potential contact, don't just keep on calling them on the phone every time. Try to use like text messages or email or LinkedIn and kind of shuffle it up. and figure out what method they prefer, because they might say, hey, we want to go and do email, that's the easiest thing for me. And be persistent. Sometimes it takes a few times and a few calls to get a hold of somebody, but just don't try to be a stalker. That does happen sometimes, where you got to call somebody multiple times, and find the appropriate time of day. Some people that you meet have want to do like a side project, and they cannot talk to you during the day. They might have a job that kind of prohibits them from leaving and taking meetings during the day. And my opinion is, don't call or text past 8 p.m. Now that seems very obvious, and some people don't do that. I've had people text me and try to set up meetings for the next day until like 1 a.m., which is kind of very odd, but I don't care, I'm up. But some people don't like that. They get freaked out if you email them even at like 4 in the morning, like I might have done that. Some things like LinkedIn will have a timestamp on there, so you need to be careful. You kind of want to get, let's say, you know, in the daytime when you're messaging people maybe. When you do connect with somebody on LinkedIn, make sure to write them a personalized message. That also sounds straightforward. I think LinkedIn says that. People don't always do that. And if I'm trying to connect with somebody, I try to say, hey, it was nice to meet you today at gang or whatever group, and then they might be more responsive that way. When you call somebody up and you or try to get a hold of somebody, like a connection that you made, first try to find them on LinkedIn, look at their profile, and look at what their interests are. Maybe they have some sort of extracurricular activities that they do, like, and then you see, hey, other people that they're associated with might have, or that you know, might have the same sort of interest, and then you can say, hey, so-and-so is interested in the same thing, or they went to the same college as you did. And also visit their company website and see what it is that they do before doing like a completely cold call. Don't be a taker. When you go to meetups, especially like something like Gang, maybe volunteer, or don't try to push your service to everybody. Just, if you go to networking meetups, everybody's trying to sell their own service. That's kind of obvious, but you should say, hey, how can I help you? I have certain contacts that maybe that would help somebody else. As a good quick story, Dustin did a meetup a few months back, and somebody asked me, he said, what do you get out of it? I said, here, I have a list of things and networking events you can go to, and I always bring a small folder, like a business card folder. And he said, what do you get out of it? I said, nothing. But sometimes people will go and sit down with me for an hour, and I get something out of it, and they don't get anything out of it. But try to help somebody out instead of just pushing your services. Give back and help out. Tip number 15. LinkedIn and certain social media sites allow you to have a customized URL. So quite often what happens is you get linkedin.com/whatever your weird name is, and then you get some hash on the end of it. And that's not very good to put on your resume or when you want to send it to somebody. It's a hash, I call it goobly-gook. You can get rid of that. You need to go reserve it. So if your name is like John Smith, then maybe there's like 50 John Smiths that have already tried to reserve that name. But if you can get yours, then whatever tag it is, do that. And here's one that I should probably follow. Your LinkedIn profile should match your resume. There are reasons why you might not want that, but whatever skills and previously held positions you've had should probably match on your resume as they do on LinkedIn, or be as close as possible. The exceptions might be if you're a consultant and you have like contractual, your contracts don't allow you, or the companies might not want you publicly stating what that you're associated with them, or you built some sort of software for them. And of course, maybe you might want to avoid client poaching by other companies. That's a possibility. So there's reasons why you might not want to have it. But if you have a resume, then you might want to have the same skills on there at least, which is something I need to do probably over the weekend. And complete your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile has a little indicator that says it's 80% filled in, 70% filled in. You want to get as much of it done as possible, maybe not everything. And it's more searchable, I guess. Like any sort of backlinks that you have for your company website or any relevant social media that you can put onto your profile. There's obviously a company profile and a personal profile. So there's differences in that. And any videos or secondary marketing material is also good to put onto your LinkedIn profile. Obviously related to whatever your job you're seeking. Tip number 18 is have a good headshot. My headshot is that. Everybody wants to use, there's a lot of people that use a headshot that makes them look younger and skinnier and with more hair. I do quite the opposite. And my answer is it's a very bad thing to do in general. If you don't know me, then I don't want you connecting with me on LinkedIn or whatever. But in general, you should have a picture that matches you. Don't put your significant other, you at a party. And
Who is that anyway?
That's me.
Doesn't look like you.
Well, people want to do their ideal version of themselves. There you go. Find good networking. Find good networking groups. So ask people. If I come here, I sometimes ask people what other groups they go to. You can go look at their at other people's meetup profiles and see what other groups that they attend, and say, hey, maybe that interests me as well. And Meetup allows you to see groups that you and somebody else share in common. And one thing I always do is ask people like how often they come to a certain group. Maybe there's certain times of the year or certain things they get out of it. So I always try to ask. That's a good practice to do. And tip number 20 is a couple of interesting meetups or networking things that I've been to. Or the first one is Leaders and Innovators. There's something at LTU at 7:30 tomorrow in the morning. It's something like seeking your next job or something like that. I'm going to try to get a potential client or meet somebody to be a potential client. But it's 7:30 in the morning. There's something called IT in the D, which I have not been to, that I'm going to be going to tomorrow. It's one of the few things I've not been to. So if anybody can tell me how that works, that would be appreciated. There's network after work. It's like 100 people in a room, and you just give out your business card to everybody. They also have network after work. Also has a speed networking thing where you sit down with 4 people at a table, and then you go and play musical tables every 15 minutes. And I also like Motor City Connect. You get a room of about 30-50 business professionals in a circle, and then you do a business lunch after you do your 30-second pitch. And of course, the slide deck is there, and it's also in the meetup comments.
So IT in the D?
IT in the D.
I've been a couple times. I've been to their pink. So they have pink slip parties.
No, they don't do those anymore.
They don't do those anymore.
No.
So it's usually just at a restaurant or a bar or something. It's very casual.
Yeah, like bring business cards.
No format.
Yeah. There's
No
like,
format. It's
yeah.
just show up and wander around and talk to people.
No 30-second introduction, no.
Yeah,
nothing.
I saw that.
Just have a conversation.
Usually recruiters will like be doing rounds and try to get like every person they
Yeah,
can.
there's not like a lot of some of the last ones. It's like
No.
a handful of recruiters, yeah. Because there's no one really looking.
No, everybody's got a job right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of
There's tons
regulars that
of
go.
openings.
I normally go, but I don't go to the Detroit events too much.
It's a bit more like when we go to the bar after this.
Yeah.
This point, like,
Yeah, I don't like the network after work ones that are in Detroit downtown. It's kind of, it depends where it is, but yeah, I saw it was Detroit. And
Yeah. Usually I go to them, but it's just too hard to like get through traffic and everything.
Yeah, they like in different places every
They're
month.
in Royal Oak.
Yeah, they're in
But they
Royal
re-
Oak a lot.
They repeat though, right?
Yeah, well, this is the first time they've been at the Detroit Shipping Yard place, because they just had that, because the guys that run it also own Podcast Detroit, and they have like a podcast studio down there, and they also own like part of a bar, or like a few taps at a bar or something. I don't know. I don't. I'm friends with them, and I don't even know their current like situation and stuff because they used to also partially own Falling Down Beer, and that collapsed in the last week. So I don't know. Yeah.
So.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Cool.
Cool. That's Rosie.
It is Rosie.
We're looking forward to this one.
You used 13 and a half minutes.
Well,
Although, like, 2 of that was chatting.
oh, I thought it was
Don't worry, Rosie. You can
No,
just
I
have the
didn't
full
start.
hour.
Okay. Oh, you need the full hour.
You're not going to need the full hour?
You sure?
You should use the full hour.
There you go.
What about everybody else? That doesn't sound very.
You'll be fine.
He'll be fine. We'll go some midnight.
All right. We're here all night. We'll just you can just keep talking while the rest of us are at the bar. We'll just live stream it so we can be at the bar drinking. And all right, introduce yourself. Introduce your talk.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rosemary Duckett. I'm a senior software engineer currently. What I'm going to be talking to you about today is Pumbaa, basically a resilience testing tool that is built on a Docker container. For me, I really want to get at my apps and understand how they can break, when they can break, how I can break the code. I just want to know everything about that. And so a close friend of mine recommended using this tool. So if you're up and going with Docker, this definitely is very useful. So I'm gonna put together a quick demo. So I've already got a few. It's kind of hard to see, but I have a Docker container up and running with 2 RabbitMQ nodes to form a cluster. I have 1 master and 1 slave, and then I have an Nginx container that sits out in front for load balancing. So I've got that already up and running, and then I have pulled down the raw Rabbit sample app that's available in .NET. I really like his library. There's a lot of nice features, so I'm going to use his sample tool. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the app. The demo gods do not like me. Okay.
Specified endpoints were not reachable.
Offer them some chicken.
It's not running.
No, my Docker containers are not happy. Okay, hold on for a sec. I'm gonna try and see what's going on here.
Triage the issue.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun. She just threw it on Azure.
Yeah, I guess I could have done that. Containers are off. What don't you like? Oh. So I'm gonna try to quickly. Sometimes when you run, I've noticed when you run RabbitMQ Docker containers, the slave comes up first before the master. So I'm just gonna bring them back down and bring them back up, the containers.
I paused you, so.
Oh, okay.
We got plenty of time. It's only 7. So no rush.
Okay.
While you're doing that, raise your hand if you still have a talk to give.
Oh yeah.
And Andre. So we still have 5? Okay, cool. Cool beans. Wanna talk?
Oh, come on, Jim. You gotta talk.
I think
Talk
Nick,
about what jobs are available.
Nick did one a really long time ago, as I recall.
I feel like the next time I do this talk, I should also find the clip from Disney's The Lion King, where Pumbaa and all of them are doing the hula dance and grass skirts. So, okay, so now my computers are all happy. Let's try this again.
You are not currently plugged in.
Okay. Plug myself back in.
ready?
Yep.
All right, so this is Rosie doing things. You're back.
This changed. Oh, it did. Here, we get. Oh, start up another partial.
It means no worries for the rest of your day.
I know the song stuck in your head now.
Yes, thank you. I went to Disney like a week ago.
Come on. This is not going to be my day, is it?
Connection. We'll just talk about what we're
It's
supposed
a
to do.
problem free.
So the demo gods don't like me today. Oh man. Okay, so anyway, I don't want to waste everybody's time too much, but the cool thing that I was going to show is what you can do once you get Pumbaa up and running is you can kill your containers, you can pause them. So like if you wanted to see what happens if you take down your load balancer, you know, how your app reacts to that, if it's resilient. Yes, that was my goal with this one, but it also does some network emulation, so you can basically lose packets, delay packets, duplicate them, which is kind of cool to see how the app performs when you have a high packet loss or delay it. So, yay, that's what I wanted to show.
You literally used 4 of your minutes. You want to just bow out and go make it work, and if you start working, you can go at the end?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. Learning how to come back from demo failure is also part of learning to talk.
All right.
Okay.
Now for Jim's presentation.
Yeah, Jim, go.
Sure, let's get done.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Introduce yourself, introduce your talk. Once we get y'all plugged in.
Alright, which one should I do?
Yep, that HDMI.
Alright, my name is Matt Rose, and I'm talking about how to make a game in 13 kilobytes or less of JavaScript. We have a dongle with a mouse? No.
Need a mouse?
So this came from me doing the contest JS13K Games, which is the title of the presentation. So you get 13 kilobytes of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build a game. The first game I built was an awful rendition of Lunar Lander, where you crash into things and don't go where you want. So the goal today is to build this, which doesn't look great, but stuff gets shot at you, you dodge it, it comes faster until you get hit, and then it's pretty violent. Back here.
There you go.
So that's a little bit about the contest. They have some great prizes if anybody wants to do it. And one of the things I thought that would be useful here would be to set up Webpack and get a building in Webpack, because I never did that when I was doing the competition and it made my life miserable. So I went ahead while we were waiting and initialized. Has anybody here not used Webpack or not used anything NPM? Cool. I set up Webpack and I set it up to look at this source directory, and I also set it up to watch.
How you add 13K to your JavaScript?
No, because all I'm sending in is a distribution file and an HTML file that has almost nothing in it. Everything's in dev.
Very good.
So I don't think I'm going to have to actually build this live, so I'll just go with the code.
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
13 minutes, 13 kilobytes.
I like it.
Go.
That should have been my talk.
That should, well, you got 13 minutes. You can do it.
Right.
We believe in you.
So
Believe in you.
the entry point for an application like this is the index. We're going to set up a couple of
We're
event
still looking at the
listeners.
slide deck.
But I'm not here.
No, you're good.
Okay. Just go. Goals are to set up a basic game loop. We're not learning good JavaScript practices. We're not learning to build a production game, and as you've already seen, there's no art. Usually when you do a contest like this, you'll have 3 or 4 kilobytes of game compressed, and then art on top of that. Art or music, which is usually a JSON that gets piped into your game. Webpack will bundle everything for you. Just send in one app. So everything is done in Canvas. I'm going to set up a canvas in my site. We're going to have 1200 by 1200, so we're going to get a square. And then we're going to point at that in the index. We're going to create a game. And instead of trying to do everything in 1200 by 1200 pixels, which doesn't make for great math or physics, I'm going to normalize that to 100 by 100. And then everything that gets drawn by the canvas is going to basically get drawn out in a 100 meter by 100 meter pool. And that is done in a little draw interface adapter for Canvas. Basically it draws text or polygons, and also does the conversion from the pixels to the game units. If I'm scrolling too fast, let me know. And then also a couple specific scenes that I'll be drawing, the original one and then the dead one when you crash. So the basic game loop is you take some key inputs, which are the only 2 event listeners that I use, and then every, I forget what this comes out to, about 17 milliseconds, you update, and whatever keys are pressed, it will look at the player character and do one of 2 things. Set it up for either WSD will give you impulses. So every, I think, quarter second, you can input a big jump, either up, sideways, down. It makes it hard to just spam them. Or if you use I, J, K, and L, you can move very slowly, but because you're fighting gravity, stuff like that happens. Has anybody played any games like QWOP or Getting Over It? Yeah. Okay, those are the inspiration I take whenever I make these games, because there's not a lot of time to flesh out mechanics, and that guy doesn't do art. Right. The Lunar Lander, before it got broken, was very, very difficult to play and very fun. Everything's great before it ships. Yeah. So yeah, we take some key inputs, and the way I wanted to do this is just take a sum of the forces that are on the player, and the player will decide how much he should move. They'll report it back to the game. The game manager will then also look at all the blocks, those blocks that got shot out, and also the 4 spawners, or the 8 spawners. And then to make things interesting, they have a little bit of variance built in. And you can see as the game goes on, every time they reset their timer to shoot, it's reset without 0.1 seconds. So eventually, if you make it far enough, it just turns into chaos. But we don't have much time. I don't have much time. Anything else I'm noting here since I'm not building this live? So the drawer, when you draw with a canvas, what you want to do is get the element and then get a context for that element, and then you'll just draw either a rectangle or text. If you want to rotate, things get kind of messy. You have to save the context and then do a translation to get whatever you're rotating to the center of the screen. So you'll actually drag the object that you're going to rotate to the center of the screen, rotate the whole screen, draw that object, rotate it back, and translate it back to where you want to put it. I didn't really want to go into that because there's not really an easy way to demonstrate the math, or if you can call it math. That's about it for the game, but I did want to tie this back to .NET World. So you can use Webpack. I don't know if anybody has used Webpack in like an ASP.NET app. specifically where I work, we use it for React. You can use Webpack to build all of your JSX to a distribution folder somewhere, and then just hit it from your view. This is, we don't usually put the VB in front of our applications where I work. So yeah, all we do when we hit the React apps is we throw it at, we'll call this view from a controller, and then I'll hit the React script. It's actually pretty neat. I don't know if it's built in 2017 or if it was built in 2015 somewhere, but this Task Runner Explorer is, I believe, an extension. And what it does is pick up the NPM scripts you set up in your package JSON and then let you run them one click without having to spin up a terminal. So here I have build alias as Webpack and watch alias as Webpack -w, and that'll give me those two commands here, which are actually pretty neat. And when I do the watch, it'll run, and then it will clear out what's in my distribution folder because there's no actual JavaScript here. That's about it. Unless anyone wants to come up and play the game. Any questions about JavaScript game development?
How is it handling? So like you showed the velocity, so you could actually like you know, how is the physics baked into Canvas? Did you have to write something?
No, I wrote all the physics myself. So really, yeah, that was actually the fun part of doing this. Every time I call the update loop, or I call the update function in the loop, I get the current time and I send in the time delta. And then I use the time delta so you don't get, so you get smooth motion. So these are impulses, but if I use the smooth motion, it's doing the velocity times the time delta for acceleration, so you actually get acceleration. You can see that.
Are you going to use smaller JavaScript minimizing it by hand, or does Webpack actually generate small JavaScript?
I haven't actually checked, but this was around like 2 kilobytes. When you turn in the application, I know there are minifiers for Webpack, and I haven't used them. That would probably be the next step. But usually it gets small enough, just concatenating everything into one file and then compressing that file, because they let you do that. They let you send in a zip for your deliverable, which is kind of cheating, but everybody does it.
It took 14 hours to compress your game, but you still technically under.
Well, they draw like some limits, but there aren't many, and nobody really bumps up against the limit. So yeah, here I do. If I were to remove here's gravity.
So you're just like always applying a downward force as gravity, I'm guessing?
Yeah. And there was something funky going on with it, so I had to tweak the numbers a little bit, but usually when I set something up like this, you can use the actual physics constants, and it makes it way easier to develop the game than trying to like, well, I think physics should be, 30, and
so you don't have any like physics, any of the like in a true game, like any of the mathematics that they're using,
like actual forces?
Yeah.
like which forces?
I'm trying to think back to one of my classes where we had to like actually take into the like force of account, like when you go off of a wall, like as far as.
Like how much you're actually like losing
yeah.
when you like transfer forces between objects?
Yeah.
I'm not doing any damping like that or anything, or the stuff that I am actually in the X direction. You lose a little bit of velocity
Okay.
constantly because flying around the room isn't really fun.
Right.
Fake drag.
I've done stuff like that, but then I really am making up the numbers because I don't know what the constants are off the top of my head.
Sure.
And whenever you make a game like this, there's look and feel on top of physics.
It also has to be fun, like
Right,
if
nobody
it's-
wants to jump a foot off the ground like real life. But the one that got me, I tried to do a chain. I tried to do like a chain swinging mechanic, and that was pretty rough.
I'm imagining it was one of those like old school games where like it's anchored points and all of them just spaz out every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like worms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
How
about
long
it.
does it take you to write something like this?
So the contest goes a month, and I usually spend probably 5 solid development days in there. They set it for a month so everybody has time to do it, and there's inevitably a vacation, an emergency, and a loss of data in there somewhere. But I think after the R&D, the first time I did it, the game, like this kind of loop took me 3 days to set up and actually get it to a clean point where I'm okay with people looking at it. The ones that get turned in are a lot uglier. But there's another one if I have 1 more minute.
1 minute and 20 seconds.
So this one actually went all the way up to the limit.
Shift.
So you can't see it until you speed up a little bit. But this one is a plain game. Fly around, you can shoot stuff. And there's 25 rooms. Each room is loaded separately, so as you go, easier spot. You go down to the bottom, things get hairier. And then this one, because I watched robot cartoons as a kid, you can hit space and turn it into a mech. And again, not looking great. Not huge on the graphics.
It looks super cool. What are you talking about? That looks super cool.
Yeah, this one was probably the most fun to develop because I got out ahead of it and I had time to build features as I went. And then if those lines there, if you were the robot, you could hide behind them, and if you were the plane, you'd crash into them.
That is super cool.
So yeah, I'm not a game developer, but every month or so, or every once a year for a month, it gives me a chance to play game developer on TV.
Cool.
So thanks for listening.
Thanks. Okay.
Would you like me to?
Yeah, you got your stuff.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. You totally gotta. Alright, you totally gotta find a way to like actually turn that into a talk where you like from nothing. Like you already know the game. Like you write it over the course of the talk.
That's what I wanted to do, and I could do some of it at home, and then
Right.
Then the lightning talk part happened.
So like yeah, I was gonna say that's a full talk. That's like at least an hour, if not 90-minute talk.
Rosie round 2.
Rosie round 2. Woo!
Yay! So, one thing I forgot to mention as I was going through this is when you do set up your Docker containers, you have to install the TC tool. It uses that to do the network simulation, so all the packet loss and different things like that. So what I did in my Docker file then is I just say, hey, go ahead and get the app, get update, and then I install curl to run some health checks, and then also install iproot2, which is the TC tool and Linux Alpine. So. And I have my sample application up and running. The next thing I'm going to do is make sure it gets some data here. So it is running. Okay, well, it doesn't like to. Yeah, that's right. just getting my API REST endpoint set up. That was part of the program.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. Doing all the things.
How's the door? How's that door? How's the door? Outside. No internet?
It's not liking something, but I'm just not gonna have very good luck today, am I?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Did your demo die again?
Yeah, it did. I'm not sure why the API endpoint doesn't want to get started up.
Is it running?
That simple app up and running. Just get rid of that.
Restart the Visual Studio.
So you tried turning it off and on.
Yeah, I can restart it and try to get started, so it should have loaded for us.
Come on, local host.
You can do it.
Do it.
I don't like something, even though I have the background app up and running. This is not gonna be my
It's a
day.
case study on why Docker's a bad idea.
No.
So now we talk about how you always have slides for every step of your demo, just in case.
Or recording.
Yeah.
Or a recording.
Or recorded. Yeah, I
Recording.
should have recorded at home and given it to you guys. Anyway, so what I typically do then, if I had everything up and running, is I create a shell script so that I can stand up Puma and run it. So I took the Docker run with an entry point. I load the Docker sock volume so that it can see the network in the Docker VM for Windows. And then the last part is grabbing the latest version of Pumbaa. And then once you have that, you can run the Puma command you want to test with. So like, what the hey, I'll just kill one of my containers that I have. So I can kill that. So that'll go ahead and run the kill command.
Kill it.
Good. And then, of course, I know this is really hard to see, but it went ahead. The library noticed that the connection was dropped because the broker went offline, so it's gone ahead and closed out the program.
Use the magnifier.
So, for me, it's been a really nice tool to just kind of test and get everything up and running, even though my demo didn't go as planned. So, so cool. Thank you, guys.
Can I ask a related question?
Sure.
We're just starting to use containers at work. Is this something you use a lot?
Yes. We just pushed out our first Kubernetes cluster about 2 months ago in production, and they're now setting up newer Kubernetes clusters. We went with Pivotal solution first, decided we didn't like that flavor, and now we're doing some vanilla Kubernetes clusters. But I do like it. I use containers mostly just for the testing, so that I can test and make sure that
there was a dongle up here. I usually carry one. Hold on. I don't think I'm currently doing so though.
trying to get
Dustin, do you have a mini display to HDMI?
You're using old technology file. I'm so sorry.
Someone here has one. I know that.
Yeah, one of them.
I have USB-C, so probably, I don't think it'll be
That looks like that would do the job.
Or there was one up there. Cool
There was
beans.
one up there. It's round on the bottom. Mini display. Oh.
Welcome to the better years of MacBooks.
I tend to agree. I thought
before they got ruined by.
And then the batteries start to go bad. That's it. That's certainly not fine.
Is the talk on Twitter?
No, it has some Twitter references in it, which I provided as links.
Cool.
You're offering them. We got it.
That would be a novel way to do it, is to put it all on Twitter.
You ready?
So,
Introduce yourself and your talk.
Hi, my name is Bob Allen. I've been around the area for a while. I do a lot of code retreats. In fact, I do one pretty much every month, but that's not what the talk is about tonight. But it gives you enough background to understand why XP is a very big part of what it is that I do. Because when you do code retreats, that's pretty much that, and pair programming is what people come to practice, generally with total strangers that they wouldn't otherwise get the chance to program with. But that's a different topic entirely. So, I tweet a bit as Curious Agilist, and when I do, one of the things that came up fairly recently, just earlier this month, was a tweet that got my attention about XP, and Twitter had this tag, Bring Back XP, and believe it or not, it's been around since 2013, and it's been used again as recently as this month. Not all of these are references to the much loved but still used, and that's what this reference is about. Hello, there we are. That doesn't look quite right. There we are. This is Kevin Henley. If you follow him on Twitter, people send him from all over the world, all kinds of places, airports, coffee shops, you name it, when computers crash, either the blue screen of death or other forms of death. And very often, big surprise, they're XP, like they're still using that? There was one earlier this month that was on some transit system where they were still using XP and not the extreme programming type. So, so Bring Back XP used to mean one thing and more recently has been being used for another purpose. Some of the people that have been doing this, this was a tweet from Drunken Cod, and basically it started a little bit of a conversation. It was hard, but it was really good. Some, like many XPers, me included, have that as one of their cherished memories, that is doing extreme programming. And Kent Beck actually chimed in on this and told a very short story. He had a guy from South Africa that said, those are the best 3 years of my life when I was doing extreme programming. And of course, Kent Beck, for those who don't know, which I imagine is a very small percentage, if any, is the guy who literally invented extreme programming. And so that said, I couldn't help but to respond. That's me with less facial hair. And this had a really good thread. It didn't go that long, but it had some pretty good stuff in it. The point is, there's a lot of sort of, let's say, resentment around how wildly successful Scrum became, because Scrum goes out of its way to completely ignore technical practices. It's all about process, about how you organize people, or put another way, how you rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic instead of steer the boat. So a lot of people seem to have that perspective on it, and there's a lot of people saying, including Kent Beck, time to bring it back. And someone else replying further down that thread, XP needs a champion. If you took up those reins again, it would be the best thing ever. Well, I don't know if that would necessarily be the case, or if Kent Beck feels that way. But at least there's a lot more people like Chet Hendrickson, Ron Jeffries, which are local Notary folks here, John Cuttlefish, Tom A.R. Johnson. These are all people that are talking about this stuff, and it's like, okay, great. And then here's some sort of silly comparisons, because you will probably recognize how silly they are as soon as you read them, those of you who actually know what some of these things are, or what extreme programming is. So here's an actual article, believe it or not, comparing extreme programming versus Agile. But the very first thing he says is, for those of you who are educated, you know that this is a ridiculous question. So I don't know why he bothered to use that other than maybe it was provocative as a title or something. And another, going back here, I was able to find quite easily extreme programming versus Scrum, which is like, they're not antithema at all. In fact, they have almost no points of intersection. They probably conflict a little bit about how you interact with the customer. I don't think Scrum specifically calls out, it sort of encourages you, actually defines a proxy for a customer called a product owner. So I guess in that sense they're contradictory, because XP says talk to the customer, or the closest you can get to it, which might be a product owner. In any case, there's these silly comparisons, and I can send this deck around. We distribute this, right, for anyone who actually is interested. Here's another one that takes it even further: extreme programming versus Scrum versus Kanban. And for someone who's actually run both Kanban and Scrum, anything you can do in Scrum, you can actually do better in using Kanban as a process. Funny thing about Kanban, it's actually three different things. It's a board, it's a card on the board, and it's the process for moving the stuff on the board. So what do you mean when you say Kanban? And then extreme programming versus Godzilla. Well, okay, I admit it, I kind of made that up. But there's actually a guy that's got a blog entry out there that's kind of on this topic, but I'll leave that for when you... no application, okay, I don't know what that's about, so I'm going to not do that. Maybe I'll correct that link. And extreme programming versus Emacs, and this one is not really about extreme programming, but XKCD is one of my favorite cartoon strips. And this is the one where they talk about real programmers do it like this. So they're talking about, now, real programmers use Emacs. Hey, real programmers use Vim, and so on and so on and so on, to the logical, ridiculous extreme.
Emacs has a command for that.
Yeah, of course, Emacs has a macro for that. So, having some fun with that. Getting sort of back to where it was that I started in terms of here's what I do. I do a bunch of code retreats, and code retreats are all about pair programming and extreme programming. There's an annual event that's coming up, shameless plug, in November called Global Day of Code Retreat. And as the name would suggest, it's about an event that takes place everywhere, which means at this point in time, as you can see, this is currently up to date, 79 Global Day of Code Retreat, that's GDCR 2018 events. And I'll make this a bit larger so you can see it's on virtually every continent right now. In fact, the only one that so far hasn't actually got anything going on in that continent would be Africa, as you can see here.
Antarctica has one?
Pardon?
Antarctica has one?
Not quite yet, but I'm sure it'll come eventually. Maybe not this year. I'm pleased to see off the east coast of Australia, there's 3. And the folks that get to go first is the Kiwis down here in New Zealand, because the date line is just a little bit east of there. So they're going to start that day off, and what will happen is this event will circle the planet. And probably the last one, unless Hawaii comes up and does one, they would be the logical last ones, or maybe someplace up in Alaska, in the Aleutians or something. But there's not too many programming communities up in the Aleutians, so that's not likely. So anyway, the reason I bring this up is because right here in, not River City, but in Dearborn and in Ann Arbor, there's going to be Global Days of Code Retreat. And I can show you those as well, because I'm going to be leading one of those. this one, this is the one that's in Ann Arbor. This will be the 5th year that I've been doing this. And we have a lot of fun. You get fed both breakfast and lunch. It's completely free. It's all day, and you get to pair with total strangers, which is ridiculous amounts of fun. In whatever language you choose, we're completely platform and stack agnostic. In fact, for people who come and don't have a stack on their laptop that they and their pair can agree on, we use a website called Cyber Dojo, cyber-dojo.org, which amazingly has 30+ languages running on it, every single one of which has one or more testing frameworks on it. So with an absolute zero cost, you can experiment in a language that you've never used before. So for something like a code retreat where you've got pairing of complete strangers, it's the perfect, no penalty, no barrier way to go. And that's why I use it a lot. So this is one of them. This is the one that's in Ann Arbor, and on this is the alternate location because it's a friend of mine who will be actually leading the one in Dearborn. This is not on Meetup, it's on Eventbrite. But in both of these things, the same things are true. It's all day, it's free, you get both breakfast and lunch, and she's put together sponsors. This is through Henry Ford Community College. So there will also be one in Lansing, but it won't be on the global day of Code Retreat. The people who put it together didn't get the message quite right, and they managed to do it on November 3rd. And it's only half a day instead of a full day. I'll beat them up later. And if there's any luck, there might actually be one all the way across the state out in Grand Rapids as well. I know that there's someone actively working on that right now. My personal goal is to actually have as many as 4 or 5 in Michigan on the same day. So far, there's a good chance I'll have 4. I might have as many as 5, and that'll be something that's never been done before. So I've been a royal pain in the ass for some people trying to get them. People who have the communities already, have the venues already, and have the sponsorship already because they're running meetups monthly. So why is there not a pin on the map for you? So that's what I've been doing a lot of lately, and extreme programming is a very big part of that. How many people actually write code here every day and get paid for it? I'm going to guess that's almost everybody in the room, if not everybody. Okay? Do you do a test first, just out of wild curiosity, informal survey? Test first. Do you write the test first and then make the code respond to the test, just out of wild curiosity?
I've done that for years.
Okay, I see mezzo in one hand and 2.5 hands, so to speak. Okay, I'm just really curious. How come? Who said you can't? You or someone else?
My boss. We don't write tests for this.
Oh. All right.
Tests would
That's all I got.
Tests would slow down delivery. Come on.
I'm sorry, I take everything.
Crock
Crock of tests. All right. Who still has to go? Right. So, what do you need from us to get started?
A computer.
Dustin, you're up again. Okay, next year we just have everyone send their decks to us. That is what we do next year.
And Kubernetes.
You put your demos on Azure.
And the Kubernetes demos.
Put your demos on the Azure.
Let's get the party on the road.
All right. So, him, you, anybody else?
Got my Dennis,
Andre.
Daniel, got Andre, got Allison.
Are you actually?
Yeah.
She's grinning like she doesn't want to, but we'll probably make her.
She's
anyway.
grinning because she wants to, huh?
Right.
Exactly, see?
Need crowd participation if I do it.
Exactly.
Good luck with that.
All right,
All right.
give me your
Flash drive.
No, it's not a flash drive. You have an internet connection. You can just download from GitHub.
Small amount of virus. Small amount.
It's all right. I don't need. I'm on a Mac. I don't get viruses.
All right. I like how that got a chuckle.
Yeah, hold on to that.
What? You mean they're not immune? When? I was told they're immune.
What's the fun?
While we're going.
You need to log in.
Viruses barely exist anymore. Like, have you noticed over the last few years, viruses are to the point where like you no longer have those like little annoying ones that just shut your computer down. It either like locks your entire computer down and takes your social security number, or it does nothing. Like, there's no in between anymore.
Or wants to sell you the contents of your regular back.
Well, yeah. Hackers realized they could make money instead of just being annoying.
Like we hit the caps lock.
The funny part is they're all usually pretty reliable. They will actually.
Don Hopkins.
He's taking a picture.
I was gonna send it to David Garrett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the only combination that wasn't taken.
You can get a photo of my back.
What you want to do?
How do you scroll down on this?
Two fingers.
Oh, okay.
You're just gonna do it off there, or you want me to download the code?
I'm gonna download it.
Excuse me.
Here, let me do it.
There is no.
Download it. Zip.
There.
Download zip to the desktop and.
You good to go? Your demo's ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I have my laptop down because the battery just like dies like crazy on this thing. So.
Yeah, it's because it's a Windows laptop.
If you're
Yeah.
This is not
if
a
you're ready, you can go before me.
Because you got a laptop.
Actually, even my Mac like drains your battery. I don't know.
Mine's actually, if I don't have, if I'm like just web browsing, it lasts forever.
Yeah.
But if I'm like running Photoshop or something, it just
Yeah. Well, I have Chrome open, so that's probably like just.
500 tabs.
Well, like 4 or 5.
100.
What you want?
Go into
Yeah.
more tools.
How's everybody doing?
Extensions.
Extensions.
Everybody
Load
having
it
fun?
there.
Load
Yeah, you have some time?
unpacked.
Cool.
On
Yeah.
desktop.
It's definitely
just, yeah, just
more active.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it's in. Go to YouTube.
Good times.
On some ModGang account.
Good times.
And
I was kind of
just
surprised
hit
everybody who
anything.
said they do one actually came back. I expected Dano to be like, one person chose it was like, oh, I got sick, sorry. And there's one of
Just
those.
hit anything
I said I would do it
on-
because there was something I wanted to do this month, and that was going to force me to
There you
set
go.
it up.
Okay.
That work?
Doesn't work. Okay. There's a reason why I'm happy about that. But,
You good? Plug in.
hold on.
Hold on. Not yet.
Go back to your desktop and I need to open
Okay. Here, let me do something for
Good look on me? Okay, I'm getting giggles. I'm gonna take that as a no. Okay. We're just gonna let the person who actually owns that wear it now.
you. I was about to say, I'm gonna.
How gay did I look?
OBS color. Nice.
With the salmon shirt and the. She's crying,
Oh
laughing.
yeah, you can open the whole folder. Yeah, let's do that.
How do you even do that?
Okay.
I don't know if that would be better. Would that be gonna like?
Yeah, that's worse.
That's worse.
And then
You're welcome.
I'm like the sideshow act in between the top.
Are you ready?
Watch the cross-dressing man.
Thank you for doing
You're welcome. Thanks for speaking. Have you ever spoken in front of a group before?
this. I have, but it's been at work.
Ah, it's different when it's public.
And when the demo guys with you.
Yeah, the demo gods were not pleased with your offering today.
Lesson learned.
That's kind of the point of this whole thing, is people can learn and get more comfortable and
Control this.
get freaked out. I remember the first time I gave a talk, I think I gave the whole thing in like 2 minutes and then ran back to my chair. Like hyperventilating.
situation?
Delete.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm just shadow puppeting in the little.
Guys.
We're live
Stood
coding.
up in front of them and was
Plug in if you're live coding.
I was like shaking right in front of them.
Save.
Yeah, that's how it goes generally.
They didn't ask me to do it, like, my professor billed me to, like, where I could do all the proofs that was in my thesis. They didn't ask me.
Yeah. Looks like it's tricky. Do you guys want to like take this away and we'll have someone else go while you get it sorted?
It's gonna be up in just a second.
1,000.
Just over a second.
1,001.
Okay.
Oh wow, it actually worked. Good timing.
So, I am Daniel Hopkins, professional fat man, also known as the Cookie Catastrophe, also known as the Soda Tsunami, also known as the Platter Plague. Told you I'd say it. Okay.
Platter Plague.
I am talking about my Chrome extension yet again, and if you were here the first time I presented on this and you're wondering what new things I brought to it, I'm gonna need you to lower those expectations down just a bit because I'm talking about what has happened since then. Now, for those of you who remember, the way you find a video, a spot on a video you want in YouTube is typically you're on a long video like this, you've seen it before, you want to find something, you loosely know where it is, but you don't know exactly where it is. So what you typically do is you just click on some random spot in there, you know, just there, and it will load. Okay, you just click here, and if you remember what you want is being right after this, you'll just click after this, and if you remember what you want is being before this, you'll click before, and then this will go on and on and on until you find what you want. Now this Chrome extension is made to simply expedite that process and keep track of it while it's going so that you don't have to do that. So what happens is there is a find a spot thing here. And if you want to show instructions, there's instructions there. Click find to jump to the middle of the video. If the spot you're looking for is the thing. I'm going to show you in a second, so I'm just showing that the help is there. But if you want to find a spot, you just hit find. This little progress bar will pop up to show you that you're in the middle. You don't click this or anything, it's just to show you where you are, because when you're down here, you can't see this thing here. So if what you want is after the middle, you hit after this, and it shrunk its space in half, the space where it searches. If what you want is after where you just jumped to, you hit after this again. And if what you want is actually before where you are, you hit before, and it keeps shrinking down until you find what you want. So essentially you're cutting things down by half every single time to find what you want. And in a long video, 1 hour, 1.5 hours to 2 and 3 hours, I don't know how long your videos are on YouTube, but it's a very quick way to find what you want. Now I went over how this works before. It is a Chrome extension, purely JavaScript and HTML. Basically what happens is there are scripts, several scripts that run. There are content scripts that run. They are basically, they operate in their own little world. So content scripts have the access to this right here, the DOM of the page. They don't have any access to the code that YouTube has to run the JavaScript code, but they do have access to the DOM. And that's what I need, because this video element here, it having it can jump to certain spots So video can jump to certain spots. You can go to a certain spot. You can jump forward a little bit if you want to. And that's actually what these buttons are down here. Because you might go, if you're jumping around in this, you might get to like a lull or something. Like if you're watching a stand-up comedy special, you might cut it in half, and you might jump to a part where everybody's laughing, and you have to wait a few seconds for it to die down. You can just go forward 15 seconds if you want to. 15 seconds to a minute, back or forward. So this is what I showed off last time, and I keep forgetting. You can also bookmark a spot. Create.
When you say bookmark a spot, that in my mind translates to, I can send that around like a link and say, go to this place, here's the bookmark. That'll get you right there.
Oh, there is a shared dialog where you can copy the link if you want to, but it doesn't automatically do that. Right now, it just puts a link there, and if you say, like let's say you go here, it doesn't automatically. Oh, it has my last one.
There you go.
But right now I came back and it still has my link, and if I want to, I can jump right back to where I was before. You know, I can jump right back to that spot I just saved. So those are the basic functionalities, and I explained how basically it works. It gets the video element, just basically does wacky things with it so that you can do whatever you want. But since then, I was working on it, trying to get it going and add more features to it, maybe get it going in different platforms, maybe Netflix, stuff like that. And also maybe I could talk about it in a job interview or something and say, this is what I've been working on. And then after I get the job, maybe I can work on it some more. But then I got a job after talking about it in a job interview, an hour away from my home. So I didn't want to look at anything technical after coming home, even a light bulb.
House candles.
You ever look at a light bulb, like say something else? But yeah, that was basically it. And you can even see that in the GitHub history. This is on GitHub. It just gets as desolate as, after a certain date, it gets desolate. Like if you're in Flint, maybe Cortland Mall. Oh, okay. It gets desolate after like May, because that's when I started interviewing heavy, and that's when I eventually got the job. And I was and that's when I kind of dropped off. You see, okay, jumping back. Cortland Mall, it used to be the spot when I was a kid, but now, okay, imagine you found out someone you love is now dead, and now imagine that feeling is a mall. That is Cortland Mall now. It's just, you walk in and it's like a murder scene. You walk in, I don't know what happened here, but let me walk out before I'm next. So that is Cortland Mall in a nutshell. I don't know why I went off into that, but okay. So basically what happened is I tried to do this on Netflix. Okay, I misjudged something. See, Netflix has this video element just like YouTube does, but it doesn't allow you easy access to it. It has its own API, API, JavaScript, for accessing the video element and doing things to it. So this running off of basically content scripts that don't really touch the JavaScript of the page, what would happen is that I couldn't really access it, and if I did, it was I tried to do some witchery to do it, but I could get nothing working. And one day, while I was working on it, I made a list of every single thing that could be a problem, and number 10 on the list was racism. And I just put that as a joke, you know. ha ha, I'm working by myself. We like to have fun here. But there's nothing more humiliating than crossing off every single item on the list until all you have is racism. And for a brief moment at 2 a.m. in the morning, I wondered to myself, you know, is Netflix racist? And the sad thing is what got me out of it is realizing that it has a black background, so it can't possibly be racist. I wish this wasn't true. So, something I forget to mention. Now another thing that kind of blocked me here, and what you didn't see is me actually fixing this in the background. The thing that's actually on Chrome Web Store right now doesn't work. See, I didn't share it with the whole world. I only shared it with like people around here, kind of like an alpha test. But it doesn't work because YouTube changed their layout to use something called Flexi. Now, Flexi is kind of like a new framework they have for the layout of their page. I don't know 100% the specifics of it, but all I know is that some computers have Flexi and some don't. And I just recently found out about this. That's all I know. Some have it, some don't. Maybe more Chrome browsers have it, and maybe now I can get onto it, but that's the thing. If you had saw this before, that UI didn't pop in. I had to throw in a tiny fix to actually make it pop up. And that's been the thing now. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work right now. I have to fix it and adjust to YouTube's new layout, which thankfully is now more widespread, at least on Chrome. I go on Firefox and it's still the old one. This video used to be smaller, basically. So that's where I am with this now. I'm gonna try to fix it. But what I was wondering is, I've had several times something happen to where things aren't working the way they should be. Well, like sometimes an element doesn't load when I need it to, and I had to switch to another element. Because technically, when this loads, to get it a little bit into the grassroots, I have to wait for something on the page to load before I know, okay, this is loaded. That means the video is loaded and everything else is loaded that I need to attach the UI to. So I'm gonna just inject that in. I was hoping to find some way I could put like the UI in like maybe a sticky footer, or maybe just something like a widget. We're on a Mac, so maybe like a dock or something, and like within the browser. But I was wondering, would that be too intrusive? Do you think that would be too intrusive? Should I just stick with this and just, if something happens, just, you know, fix it and move on? Or should I pursue maybe something different because all I really need is this video element right here. You know, that's all I need. And what happens is they change the layout, and the layout affects things, but I don't need the layout technically. All I need is to manipulate that. But if they keep changing the layout, then I'm gonna have to keep adjusting. So one thing I do plan on doing is up here, you can see the actual icon for it. And this shows you options, all your bookmarks and stuff like that. All the bookmarks you have across all pages. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put like a backup UI in here so that when this loads, even if this doesn't load down here, you still have it up there. You can use it. So that's one thing. I'm going to try to also, I know I'm shooting high here, but I'm going to try to see if I can do something to put it actually on this video so that it can be, you can see it in full screen, because right now you can't do that in full screen. Although I don't see much of a reason you would need to in full screen. If you're trying to search for a spot and maybe even bookmark it for later, you probably don't 100% need full screen, but you know, I'm trying to figure out like a non-intrusive way I can stick this without having to worry about where exactly the layout is. Because, yeah, I'm just working with Dream, like, it's its own content scripts, you know, just Dreamland, just working on whatever. Had a weird, I had a weird dream.
Got a question for you. Do you have access to the transcript on the videos that have got closed captions? Have you looked at maybe allowing people to search for a word that's in the transcript and then jump into that part of the video?
That was suggested, but I don't know if I do have access to that. Right now I'm just operating off the elements that are actually in the DOM. I haven't looked into that, but if it is loaded through JavaScript on YouTube's page, that transcript, unless it's something I can grab from the DOM and maybe search through it and whatever, I probably can't do that without, you know, sprinkling some kind of witchery on there. I don't know.
I mean, that'd be really nice if you had like a long Microsoft keynote.
Yeah, it
was
would.
like 3 hours long, and you want to look at one specific bit about progressive web apps or something. You type it in.
So instead of just using a binary reduction like we're doing now.
You can actually search for a word.
Yeah.
But okay.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I see this is quite useful, but having that would make it very useful.
Yeah. I just have to be careful of YouTube's closed captions though, because sometimes they get quite squirrely. I'll have to bake in some kind of, if I do that, I'll have to bake in some kind of warning for that.
And when you talked about your backup UI just now, so basically you're waiting for an element, a known element to appear, but you can key off to say it's
Yeah, basically, see the thing is not all these elements, I'm basically attaching to elements on YouTube's page to throw that UI in. So I'm waiting for certain things to appear before I know, that lets me know, hey, the page is pretty much loaded right now, you can toss that in.
But you're doing that automatically, right? So you're waiting for something that you already know, you're keying off the arrival of that.
Yeah.
So on the UI that you have, if you find that it breaks, you could perhaps throw something into your UI that says, okay, try again.
It does wait and keep on waiting until the thing pops up. Basically, it's kind of like a callback, kind of like a recursive callback thing where the function runs and then, yeah.
No more questions.
Are you good?
Ooh, could you make it drag and drop, or you could just like drag the widget around the page and just drop it wherever you want it?
I'll look into that, but I'm gonna say no off the.
So I guess I also, if there is something like Chromecast where you have all the controls up top, it's kind of cumbersome to do that. So if you have to go do that backup UI, that would be something you should do. I don't like those types of controls, the way you have to go click back and forth on there. I hate those with it, but it makes more sense because if you have to keep continuously modifying it, and it breaks, it's just like you're gonna follow your hero sooner than you're gonna fix it.
Go over there.
Type thing.
Missiles the questions.
So you're saying what again?
How we multitask.
That having that backup UI as the new UI, that makes sense, even though like I don't like how that functions, but it's always going to be there and it's not going to break. I think what we want is for it to not break and functional.
Oh, that didn't work.
Or you just break.
Okay, that was weird. It looks different on the two screens.
Oh yeah, that's you never seen Presenter?
No.
Oh, Presenter lets you write notes.
Oh, okay. I haven't used PowerPoint in a long time.
All right, you good? Questions done?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, you guys can tell it. All righty, introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Mike Dennis. I'm doing kind of the OWASP Juice Shop as my presentation, along with some other random stuff. It's if you haven't heard of OWASP before, they're a 501c3. They have like a lot of different projects. I'm mostly familiar with those three: ZAP, which is like kind of a penetration testing tool. the OWASP Top 10, and then this Juice Shop app. They used to also have it was like Broken Web app that was like a VM that you could run, and it would have different things you could like test on there. I did either like a half or a whole day code match session on doing different like attacks on it. But it was kind of like older technology and stuff, which it looks like now they've kind of went toward this Juice Shop app. And the OWASP top 10, the last ones that they did, these are like from top to bottom, the 10 most common security risks that are, found out in the wild. They end up being repeated whenever they go through. I don't remember what year it was before 2017 that they went through. I think it was like 2013 or something was before, and it didn't really change that much between the years. This is the GitHub for it, but if you look, search for OWASP Juice Shop, you can find that. There's a lot of different deployment options. Heroku's really, really easy. If you have a Heroku account, you just click a button and put in what you want the thing to be called. And there's Docker, Vagrant, Amazon, Azure, or you can build it from source and just run it on your machine. And it's this site. They have a presentation on the site, and I kind of took this from there on the architecture. And it's set up so whenever the site goes up, it completely wipes the history of what's been done on the site before, and refreshes it. And then demo. So this is the GitHub for it, which you would just go down here, if you're going to do the Heroku, and click the deploy. I'm not going to do that because it takes a few minutes for it to go, but they've got all the other options on here. They also have the CTF extension, which I'm not really familiar with, but I think that there's a way that you can set up some sort of CTF lab for doing this. We did it in the MySec group, so mysec.us is the site. That's where I first heard about this. We did a couple different groups where you're trying to attack the site and see which group, or we're attacking different copies of the site, so that way each team, our scores together. And then this is the site I have, which this one, if you're on your computer, you can try to do stuff to this. This is just it's migangjuice.herokuapp.com, and this will be up until I delete it at some point. So go home and do this, or create your own. And one of the first things, and actually the demo's not messed up, so that's good. One of the first things that you can do is just look at the source code and kind of see what stuff you can do here. The scoreboard is kind of the starting point. Once you click on the scoreboard, then the scoreboard shows up on the site, which is the problem that I was having earlier, where it was just showing up for no reason. And then right here, there's different levels of attacks that they have, or different classifications. You can click on one, it'll show what things are in there. And as you go through here, it'll pop up and say that it's detected that you've done the different attacks on the site. But it will clear once the dyno restarts. So if you run one on your own machine, then it would persist for as long as you keep it running. But on Heroku, I've noticed that if you let it if you don't use it for an hour or so, it'll reset itself when you go back to it. So that's kind of the main thing with this. The other thing, which just kind of a plug for an upcoming event, there's this RUCTFE event that the MySec group's doing. It's based in a Russia, like a Russian education thing. I did it last year. It's kind of interesting. We didn't do that well at it last year because we had lots of setup problems. We planned a lot more this year with it. We would be looking for a couple more people if anyone's interested. Develop. It's kind of looking for more developers because there's a lot of security people that don't really know code. A lot of stuff. There's Docker containers that were in it last year. There's Go. There's Node last year. There was some C# I think last year. And if you go into their website, if you do the /2017, you get all the information for last year's instead of just the Fallout page with the countdown. And they have lots of different details on there. The downside of it though is that it's at 5 a.m. on a Saturday. It's on the 10th of next month. So if anyone is interested in that, go to mysec.us and go into sign up for the Slack, and then there's like a channel in there for it. And I think we have like some Eventbrite or something that they made just to get like an actual official account. It's over in Wixom. We're like meeting at some business over there. I'm not sure exactly where in Wixom, but one of the guys that's in MySec, like he's like the founder of some business, and we're gonna have it at his place. But we could use like 2 or 3 more people if anyone's interested in that. So that's most of my talk here. So
if I sign up for the MySec Slack, am I gonna get hacked?
actually, yeah. That was one of the things. Let's see if they have the actual rules. They had rules on here. Which, like, I'm a little paranoid about, because last year I brought, like, this, like, really, it was a little bit older laptop. I mean, it was, like, decent specs, but it was a little bit older, and, but I only had, like, Kali Linux on there, and the problem was that, like, a lot of the dev tools that I have wouldn't run in, like, root mode or any of that stuff. It would be like, oh, you're not supposed to do this. Like, VS Code was complaining about running as root. And so I couldn't use most of the editors I was familiar with without it, like, really complaining about it. This year I'm going to try to take my huge Dell gaming laptop that I have that can do like a bunch of VMs and stuff. And they do, the VMs are VirtualBox. They have like a couple different, they have like a vulnerable server that they have for it. There's like a vulnerable server, and then there's the router that are both images, and then there's the whole team is on the network too, and then we tried to attack, and basically it sounded like, 'cause I didn't even know what the flags were last year. Apparently this year, or what they are in general, is like a long string with like some equals, like like encoded text basically, and it's basically like you have to like break into the site, and then there's like a bot that comes by every once in a while, like every few minutes or something, and drops like a new flag somewhere on the site. And you have to have your site up so other people can attack, but you have to try to like patch yours so other people can't get in, and you're supposed to get into theirs. And it's like from about, well, it's you get the password for the images at 5 a.m. It starts in Russia, so it's not 5 a.m. for them, but it's 5 a.m. for us. And then it starts at 6 a.m. and then it goes like into the afternoon, I think it was last year, before it's over with. We didn't get any flags last year because we spent half the day just trying to get the network working. We didn't really have a good strategy for that, but we got people working on it. We met once so far, so I think we're more prepared this year. But you have where other teams, or you're allowed to attack other teams. So yeah.
You guys done?
So I'm good.
Oh, you done?
Yeah.
Oh. Yay! We were gonna skip Andre. Allison, do you wanna go?
Sure.
Hold you.
No, I don't really want to, but I'm gonna challenge myself to go.
Okay, Richard, let me speak fast. Here, go stand in front of the blue screen and I'll just point this thing at you. Okay, hold on. Or stand wherever you want and I'll point this thing at you.
Just to give a little comfort.
You want the podium?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So, a little bit about myself. My whole family is IT. I am not IT because I am dyslexic, so I cannot code, and nor could I read syntax. But my dad started with punch card programming. My sister is a VP of Bank of America, now Ally Financial. My ex-brother-in-law is a infrastructure director, so I really love IT, I just personally can't do it. So I've been in recruiting for about 10 years. So the one thing, and so I was 8 years in staffing, now 3 years with Brooksource. But the one thing that I'm passionate about is helping people find their jobs, and sometimes when jobs don't work out, it's really the best thing for everybody because you want. One thing I know that can be kind of hard is salary negotiations, so I was going to say a couple of things, and then if you guys have any questions about, and I will truthfully answer about recruiting or staffing or anything like that. But there's a big trend now in salary negotiations where it's like, don't ever tell your employer how much you want to make. I think that's the silliest thing ever because there's always a starting off point and you need to establish that baseline. Plus, there's always opportunities for you to say, I haven't had a raise in this amount of years, or, you know, fair market value. And if you're not gonna offer this to me, then somebody else will. You know, but also not necessarily always thinking that salary is gonna make you happy, looking into other things like benefits, paid time off, those kind of things. So now I'm blanking on everything else that I was gonna say because that's me and I was gonna prepare slides, but I didn't have time.
You were talking about interview stuff too.
Sure, well, I was going to, but if anyone has any questions about recruiting, interviews, do's, don'ts, the biggest thing is if you're nervous in an interview, there's nothing wrong. Just say you're nervous. Say this isn't what you're comfortable with. Everybody expects that. Be yourself and hopefully you'll find the right opportunity for you. But any questions on salary? This is where I said I need some like questions or yes, Justin.
So for interviews, as you were saying,
yeah.
How do you find more technical interviews happening in this area or more like laid back interviews? What's your normal thing?
I work for a jeans and t-shirt, but we will do whiteboarding, we will do a lot of coding exercises, those kind of things. So again, to ask the person who's interviewing, what should I expect, just so you're not blindsided. A good recruiter would prep you for those kind of things, but yeah, be prepared for whiteboarding. If you're not good at writing syntax, tell them right on the spot, like I can't do that, but I'll whiteboard with you, or I'll problem solve, or you know, what are you actually asking for in the solution? Are you looking for perfect, or are you just looking for how I'm going to approach a problem? So
have you ever found anyone who ever successfully actually got like I heard a million years ago, but back in like when blue suits were a thing, that if the salary was off, you could just go for like benefits and things. But every time I have ever tried that, they've been like, oh, our benefit package is like this, and you cannot go outside this, and they like immediately go, no, we don't do that.
yeah, so that's actually pretty like accurate because benefits can't switch. Normally you're signed on, like the company's signed on. So I don't care if you're the Houdini or like this mythical creature, you probably can't beat
like
benefits.
Even PTO and things?
PTO for sure. That's what was going to be my next thing. Always ask for another week. It doesn't hurt. And depending on your salary, if you make, say, just because it's easier for numbers, $100,000, if you ask for a week of salary, that's an extra extra week of paid time off. That's an extra $5,000–$6,000, you know, in terms of what you'd be getting. So look at those kind of things when it comes to comp. But yeah, so, but again, yeah, no vacation, that's a total lie most times. Unless you work for a huge corporation and it's like very stickler, but yeah. Vacation's the easiest thing to negotiate with your company. Because normally that's independently.
It's never worked anytime I've tried it. Anytime I've tried it, it's been like, oh, we can't change that. And I'm like, do it anyway. No, we really can't change that.
Did you, and then, this isn't my favorite thing to do, but just say like, well, I've interviewed at these companies and they offer that. So most companies, 4 weeks standard. So, any other questions? Again, I'm going outside of my comfort zone. I don't like public speaking.
Oh, but you're so
That's the point of lightning talks.
I know, that's why I'm challenging myself, but.
Do you ever end up negotiating signing bonuses with people?
Yes, so that's another good thing. Again, one of the points. Yeah, so signing bonuses also are something easier to negotiate. So yeah, I'd say you can negotiate from 1 to 5,000, some even more, 10. But that's actually a great way, especially if it's like a bigger corporation, just ask for that. But yeah, I brought to my current company signing bonuses. We try to do it more for younger grads because again, like if I was another recruiter, I would say like signing bonuses, yeah, that's one time, but to a new grad, that's a big thing. It can help them get into their new apartment if they're, you know, young college grad, can throw towards student loans, but also never try to like negotiate bonuses or anything like that. Bonuses aren't guaranteed. And the smartest thing I ever learned from a developer who I placed was don't ever sign on for a company that they say like, oh, this is where we're going. if you're not happy with what the work is right now, don't fall for like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna migrate to this, we're gonna, no, don't, because obviously there's no guarantees, budgets get cut, things get, switches, applications fail. So always make sure when you sign on with the company that you're happy with what they're currently doing and not what they're promising you in the future. Again, too, you might, if you like what they're doing and is what they're promising in the future, then that's great, but.
And
no.
never negotiate the bonus thing. I had a place once that was like, oh, this will be your salary, and it was like way less. I'm like, no. And like, oh, but there's usually like a 5 or 10 grand bonus. I'm like, is it in the contract? No. Then it's not in the contract.
It should be in the
right,
contract.
it doesn't exist.
Yep, it should be in the contract. There's no reason why it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And then, trying to think of other things that.
Another question for you.
Yeah, of course.
Do you see a trend these days towards more people working remotely or virtually?
So it depends, and there's actually a big study done, and so my company got acquired by First Data, so I was on their HR thing. I hear working remotely is going away because people actually, the quality of life goes down, and so again, too, it's not necessarily true, but it's kind of like those fads of like, open offices, aren't they great? And then they realize that they're not great, or like, open offices are great, but the picnic tables aren't always great.
I asked that in the context of having worked remotely for about 5 years.
Yeah, and again, some people love it, some people don't. But again, I think it is going away, and we have a development team of about 25 people in our company, and they use our remote privileges the least because they like collaborating. They like, and they see so much time lost in IMing things and stuff like that. But again, that's specific to my environment. It's not.
I think it's a Midwest thing. That's my, companies in the Midwest seem to hate remote work. I see more startups and things do remote work because they don't need an office. And even bigger companies on the coasts, I think, have more of a predilection towards it because you can't get everyone in San Francisco no matter how hard they try.
Mm-hmm.
But companies in the Midwest, it's like if they can't see you working, they don't think you're working kind of a thing. At least that's my take.
It's also a very global company. A lot of people you work with aren't really focused.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem.
No, yeah, and again, too, it kind of ebbs and flows. But it is surprising because that's one of the first things I tried to negotiate with, when I came in as a recruiter. I'm like, we need to get more remote time. And they're like, our developers don't even use as much remote time as we give them. And it's like, what? And it's because it's true. They like being able to, sit next to somebody and knock stuff out. So, but again, it's individual preference. But it does weigh on your quality of life because you can never get away from the office. Sometimes it can mess your ebb and flow in terms of your day and your socialization, if that's important to you. But yeah, that's it. Any other questions? Thank you guys for tolerating me. I just wanted to challenge myself. So there you go. And again, too, I stop by these meetings occasionally. I've been in recruiting for 10 plus years, so I'm always happy to answer any questions just because that's what I'm passionate about.
Wave goodbye.
Bye.
Everyone yell goodbye. Bye.